which is the public hearing for the capital project. And we've been talking about the capital project across the community, as Amy referenced earlier. The capital project is being promoted across the community. We're doing a lot of different things this time around to promote it through social media, a lot of community presentations, a lot of presence around the community where we are distributing a lot of informational materials, and all those materials are available for you. First of all, there's a brochure that has a lot of really great information. Additionally, there's a Q&A that answers a lot of questions. All of these materials, including a series of 2 informational videos, are available on our district website under Capital Project on the main page on the right top. Additionally, you see these informational boards that are posted in all lobbies of in the lobbies of all 7 schools, as well as the financial board, which is the first board, or typically it is. And those are posted across the community. Pathfinder Bank, both locations, NBT Bank, Chase, the YMCA, and the list goes on and on. The PowerPoint that I'm going to share with you tonight is a walkthrough or a history of how we're getting to this capital project, what the financials are, what's the impact on the taxpayer and how much money. But we thought we would start with, just for those of you that haven't seen it, I know that many of you have, one of the promotional videos that were created for the capital project, and I believe this is the high school / Layton combined project video.
If you just click it. This is drone footage of our basic main campus. That exact video last night for a joint presentation for Buck Boosters and the music folks, and it worked perfectly. Does this even work?
I don't even know.
It was on.
Oh, it's maybe competing with that. Is that better? Okay. I feel like I have my back to you, but I'll put my back to the folks that know this presentation quite well. No sound. No sound. Is that better?
New mic system involved in this project?
Yeah. All new sound systems in the capital project.
Hello? Is that better?
Should be all right. Is that better?
Is that better?
Yes.
You know my pace.
Okay, Nancy. So, we thought we would start with the slide that's most impactful. And if you walk away from tonight's presentation with anything, it's these two facts. We need to make significant improvements to all 7 of our schools. And the cost of those inside school and outside school instructional space improvements are $63.1 million. And I'll talk about how we identified those items in a minute. But the bottom line is we can do $63.1 million of necessary work to all 7 of our schools, inside and outside, for $1.15 a year on a $100,000 home. And we're going to talk about the variables that brought us to this reality and how things have changed since March so that this has become significantly more affordable. The project history would include a building condition survey. A district is required to do a building condition survey every 5 years, and that building condition survey is created by your architect and submitted to the state education department. The building condition survey serves as a catalyst for identifying the items that are high priority items for a capital project like ours, and you skim those items off, and some may include some required elements and some are just parts of your district that are in significant need of improvement. We have a very active district facilities committee, and this district and the facilities committee has been working on this capital project for a very long time, oh boy, we have a very active facilities committee that has been working on this project, and we've been tweaking it throughout the years. And in the last year, again, the sitting board has made some changes in this project, even since the March vote. We have a responsibility as a school district to maintain the assets of this community, and our schools and adjoining properties are our community assets. You're going to see these two terms used regularly throughout the presentation, and they fall under the New York State mandates. There are items, 2 significantly expensive items in this project that are required by the New York State Education Department. One is permanent remediation of lead in water fixtures, and the other is carbon monoxide monitors. Currently, we have carbon monoxide detectors in all 7 of our schools, and they operate on a 10-year battery, but now it's time to make that permanent fix, and it's in fact required. Building and New York State Education Building and Energy Code requirements are also considered in this project. Now we're going to take a snapshot look at each 7 schools and look at some of the items that are in those improvement plans for those 7 schools. When we get to Kingsford and Fitzhugh Park, you're going to see that those lists are similar. They're built at the same time, those are sister schools, and they have significant needs that are similar. Another thing that you're going to notice on all 7 slides are the first 2 bullets are the same, and they reflect those improvements that are necessary around lead remediation and carbon monoxide. But additionally at Kingsford Park and Fitzhugh, we have to replace the roof. And they're not anticipated to fail, they are failing. And those roof ticket prices are very, very high. We need new roofs at Kingsford and Fitzhugh, and then all 7 of our schools will have very good roof systems. We also are anticipating the replacement of interior floor finishes, but the most significant piece really is the last bullet, and that is remediation of the masonry exterior of those buildings. As I've said to you many times before, Kingsford Park and Fitzhugh Park are very old. They have brick exteriors which have become porous over time. They absorb moisture and they create real problems on the inside walls of those schools. They blister and flake. Not only do the exteriors of those buildings need to be sealed, but then the interior walls need to be repaired and replaced. The list of items at Fitzhugh Park are exactly like Kingsford. At Minetto School, you have the same 2 bullets as the other 7 schools, but also we're proposing the replacement of exterior wall panels. Those of you that are familiar with Minetto Elementary School know that over the windows, there's a pebbled exterior wall finish that has become porous over time. They're rotted behind and they create leaking around those windows on the inside of the building. Also the replacement of exterior windows and the replacement of some exterior doors that you see highlighted in the videos on our website and our Facebook. Interior doors and hardware for security purposes and to meet fire code. And also some interior classroom reconstruction. Minetto School has 3 wings of very different eras. The main school was built in the 1940s, and then we have a 1973 addition, which houses our library and cafeteria wing, and we have a second wing on the north side of the building from 1989, which is our kindergarten first grade wing. When those wings were built, the open classroom concept was all the rage. But over time, that trend changed, and our own district staff created more traditional classrooms that are not up to fire code. And we highlight those in the videos as well. Those interior classroom spaces on those 2 wings need to be replaced. And also some exterior site reconstruction, which makes the Minetto cost a little higher. We have a back driveway and parking area at Minetto, which serves as the pickup and drop off for our students with special needs. And you know that Minetto is our fully inclusive school, and we believe that they should have an entrance and access to busing that is just as adequate as every other child. That parking lot is in ill repair. It needs to be completely redone. Riley is a little different. Riley and Layton, as you know, were both built in 1956, 1955 and 56. They're similar in many ways, but Layton is a little different because Layton also hosts our indoor athletics for our district. So the lobby is a little bit different than Riley, and we also have an interior athletic wing at Layton. Oh, I'm sorry, we're talking about Riley. See, I get going, I don't use notes, and Riley Elementary has some interior classroom wall systems that need to be replaced. In the Bunner Street hallway, which is our 2nd and 3rd grade hallway at Riley School, we have a pegboard wall system in those classrooms and built-in lockers, because when the school was built, that wing was for 5th and 6th grade. Those built-in lockers are rusted, and we're asking our 2nd and 3rd grade students to put their lunches and backpacks in those lockers. So those need to be replaced. Also interior doors and hardwares for security. You'll see those same bullets at Layton Elementary School because of it's the same era. And some mechanical system upgrades at Riley, which are internal controls to operate air circulation. The Oswego Middle School is a pretty high ticket item. That's a big chunk of the capital project. We have the same life system upgrades. We need new exterior windows, doors, and hardware replacement. We have the wall systems on the outside of the middle school. Although it's our newest school, it's not the most attractive school. If you look at it, those exterior wall panels are solid panels of black and glass that are now rusted and deteriorated. The windows leak. They create rusting on the HVAC systems that are inside those windows, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. We also have significant replacement of interior floor finishes there. We have mechanical system replacements and upgrades, including the boiler systems at the Oswego Middle School that our very talented district buildings and ground staff have kept going for quite a long time. Those items are listed in the building condition survey as high priority items. We have electrical system upgrades, and another pretty big ticket item is when the middle school was built, the classroom wall systems on the corridor side were built of a wall system that is made of a bank of lockers, and then a panel of glass above those. Those are not up to fire code. So basically, those classroom walls on the corridor side have to be completely rebuilt, new lockers and traditional wall systems to replace the glass. And some exterior site work reconstruction. As you may or may not know, the Oswego Middle School is now going to be the hub of all of our district's track and field events. We have a really nice facility at the Oswego Middle School, but our track has deteriorated significantly. It's usually you repurpose or resurface a track every 7 years, and ours is 14 years old. If we don't do a resurface quite soon, we will have to do a full replacement. So some of the site work at the Oswego Middle School is really a 7 through 12 facility with upgrades in track and field, which includes some additional field event space. Now, you've already heard about Layton because I talked about it, but reconstruction of the athletic wing was what I was talking about. There's a wing beyond the nurse's office, behind the gym, that services not only physical education, but a lot of athletics for our district. The locker rooms are original to 1955. They're disgusting, to say the least, and we need some additional space for officials. In fact, we're required to provide spaces for officials to shower and change, and they don't use our facilities because they're so substandard. You saw in the video classroom ceilings that are falling in, windows that leak. And this also includes some lobby renovation that would include, what's the word? We're gonna renovate the lobby. Oswego High School, mechanical system placement and upgrades, locker room reconstruction, and a pretty big facelift to the music wing at the Oswego High School, which is original to 1972. We had a state-of-the-art music program and facilities in 1972, and we've done little to improve those since then. This also includes a renovation of the connecting corridor that runs between the theater and our rehearsal spaces for band, vocal, and strings, and a lot of exterior campus-wide site reconstruction that I'll point out to you in a minute. Okay. This is a picture of the joint site work on the main campus between the Oswego High School and Layton. And what you see in the bottom left-hand corner is the proposed multi-use facility that's adjacent to the Oswego High School. That sits on what currently is our softball and soccer space. Around the back of Layton Elementary, you see two dark green spaces. That's the new proposed baseball and softball facilities that are in artificial turf. And where the existing Wilbur Field is on the top left, we would remove the Wilbur Field complex and replace it with two grass end-to-end practice fields. Additionally, though, you have ADA compliant walking fields and exercise spaces, a lot of additional parking for what is now the education center just next to the tennis courts, a reconfiguration of our tennis to make the alignment more acceptable, a facelift on our basketball. But a lot of the work that isn't as colorful and dramatic, but just as necessary, is site work. The total reconstruction of Buccaneer Boulevard, and many of you are on there every day and you know what I'm talking about. Buccaneer Boulevard needs a lot of work. The Liberty Street parking lot on the bottom right-hand corner of this graphic is the Liberty Street parking lot, which is sinking and the retaining wall is falling in. That parking lot needs to be completely replaced. But there's also a lot of really important work that has to happen below grade, and that is to capture runoff water so that our multi-purpose field is elevated and doesn't flood, and just a lot of other necessary work that has to be done in order to make this a reality. We're going to talk about the finances in a minute, but I did want to punctuate while we were still on that slide, but just imagine for a minute that we are. There's a lot of talk in the community about, and I think there was a lot of talk in the community in March about the capital project being a lot of money for a sexy football stadium. But the reality is only 11.33% of this project does that. 11.33, okay? So 88% of this $63 million goes to improvements of teaching and learning spaces. And that's really important. I don't say that because we're ashamed of this work. We need to spend that 11.33% to improve our athletic and music facilities. I didn't point out before, but there's a marching band practice field that's overlaid on the baseball field. Our kids deserve these improvements. We haven't had these improvements when districts around us have had these improvements because we didn't have the building aid to do it when a Mexico or a Phoenix or a Central Square did. But now, finally, as I'll explain to you in a minute, we are going to be receiving state building aid at an adequate amount that's going to allow us to now be competitive and give our kids and community what they deserve. So the project phases. Phase 1, construction. We anticipate breaking ground after we receive all the approvals from the state education department, and they take some time. So during the year that we're waiting for state ed approvals, we'll enter into the design phase. We'll break ground in June of 2020, and phase 1 construction includes a lot of work at Oswego High School, Layton Elementary, and OMS. You're going to see that some of the schools overlap during different phases, and that is by design specifically, not only by our architects but our fiscal advisors, because there's a formula that considers debt fall off, our maximum aid allowance, as well as the bonding that we do on this project. So it's very purposeful. So we don't want folks to say, oh, I don't see Minetto work for phase 2. Why is it in phase 1? It's very purposeful, and it's a formula for getting this job done for $1.15. Phase 2 construction is 22-23 school year from June 22 to December of 23, and that includes all the building work at Minetto, Riley, Kingsford, and Fitzhugh Park. Phase 3 brings us to additional work at the high school in Layton in phase 3, and then phase 4 is cleanup, and that's high school in Layton, which includes the redo of Buck Boulevard, because we have some heavy equipment that's going to do some pretty heavy lifting on that main campus, and we don't want that trampling over the beautiful new Buck Boulevard. So that's why that is in phase 4. This is the cost projection. These are the estimated project financials that bring us to $63.1 million. 24.7 at the high school, 13.1 at OMS, Layton at 12.7. And the reason that number is high is because that it also includes some of the exterior site work and athletic and music improvements. 1.1 at Riley, because that's largely cosmetic and some mechanical stuff. And then the number is the same for Kingsford and Fitzhugh at 4.125 million. But it's important to remember that Kingsford and Fitzhugh are both have roof system replacements in this project, and a roof is more than $1 million. What's changed? What are the variables that have changed that makes this the perfect time to do this project? 2 things. First of all, in March, we are asking the taxpayers on the local share to pay $37.87 a year for 20 years if they had a $100,000 home. Because of the increase in our state aid on building aid from 62% to 86%, now that same cost is $1.15, which is a 99.5% reduction on what we were asking for in March. If you have a $100,000 home, that price is $1.15, and this chart illustrates what the cost would be to other homeowners. What we do know is that the average home in Oswego is $80,000. So the average cost to a taxpayer in Oswego to do all this work for our kids and the kids for generations to come is 92 cents a year for 20 years. This illustrates how we're going to pay for this. As I indicated before, our state aid went up from 62% building aid to 86% building aid. That allows us to fund 75% of this project with state money, not out of our pocket alone, but finally we're going to enjoy the support of the state education department state building aid at 75% of this project. Another 17% is retiring debt. We have bonding on previous projects, and we've calculated over the life of this project how that debt falls off and how those bonds mature. And we have calculated that 70% of the project can be paid on retiring debt. 7% is the capital reserve, and the board has been building the capital reserve. We've increased the capital reserve since March by another $1.9 million, and that money is designed to help lower the local share. That brings us to the best part of this chart. For less than 1% is the local share. In fact, it's 0.6. 0.6% of this project is what we need the community to support. The money that we illustrated on the previous chart, 88 cents, 96 cents, $1.15 for 20 years. We can do $63.1 million worth of necessary and really important improvements to all 7 of our indoor and outdoor learning spaces. So why now? I think I've talked a lot about this already. Further delays in the capital project guarantee escalating costs. This is a higher project than we went out in March because every time it fails and we have to go through redesign, architectural fees, the cost of actually having a vote is between $8,000 and $12,000 to actually go out and vote again. And materials escalate. And a project this size, you can anticipate $1 to $2 million escalation with every 6-month hesitation to pass a referendum. Important and required elements of the project must be completed with or without the capital project. And I'll give you an example. The boilers at the middle school. If the boilers at the middle school fail, and they're a high priority item in our building condition survey, it's our responsibility to take care of that repair. If we pass this capital project, the work on the Oswego Middle School boilers get done with 86% building aid, okay? But if the project fails and the boiler fails, we gotta pay for it. So now's the time to let the state building aid help us do the project that other districts around us have done already. The building condition survey items that are addressed may be refused for building aid. So for example, the roof system at Kingsford and Fitchett, they are failing, they're leaking already. We can enjoy 86% support from the state education department to put a new roof at Kingsford or Fitchett, or we can defeat this project and pay for it on our own. Those roofs have to be replaced. Our building aid percentage has increased, as I indicated before, from 62% to 86%, generating more aid to offset the local share. And our dedication from the capital reserve was increased from $4 million on the March project to now $5.9 million that we have dedicated to offset the local share, which brings us to the 0.6% or $1.15. We're asking people to vote, and not only vote, but talk to those in your own circle of constituents. We all travel in different circles, we interact with different people, we have family and friends, and it's not about us supporting the capital projects, it's us educating those that we know about these facts that have changed, the variables that make this affordable. And if we do that, if we all share the responsibility and the passion for making this capital project a reality, I'm convinced that we can do it. Our voting places are the same as they are for our building budgets in the 4 locations, 2 on the west side, 2 on the east side, inside and outside of the city, from noon to 9 on December 18th, 2 weeks from tonight. Please check out our website. We have so much literature and information on the district website under capital project on the main page, top right side. You can see all the information of displays. You can see the question and answer. You can see editorials that have been written that are very educational for the community, and all the videos. Not only the videos that were produced by City BOCES, but a great set of videos that were produced by Matt and hosted by Tori Tripp, which are walks through the schools and chats with principals about what is the impact on teaching and learning in your school with this capital project. And now I'll open up for any conversation or questions, and we're all here to help answer your questions. And Craig is with us tonight. He's our architect from King & King, and he'll answer anything that I can't, or that Nancy can't, or any board member that would like to contribute to the conversation. We would welcome that.
I have several questions, actually.
Great.
You mentioned the high priority items. Turn it on. Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. So, you mentioned high priority items. Do we have an actual figure of exactly how much those costs are?
Yes, we do. Greg?
Well, it goes back to approximately the 88% that Pete was talking about. They're all high priority items. Those were all itemized on the 2015, some on the 2010 building condition survey, as needed critical attention.
Okay, but, let me just clarify this.
I guess
You mentioned the
maybe
11.
Maybe I can clarify
you say on the thing, 11.33% is field work.
Yes.
But then you mention a reconstruction of the athletic wing for Layton. I don't get the impression that that's part of that 11.33%.
That's correct.
We're lumping that in with the Layton figure. So, you know, reconstructing an athletic wing would be nice, but I'm not seeing where that's a high priority issue compared to a roof. So I'd like to see it separate. I'd like to see, there must be figures to indicate roof, boiler system. I feel like there's not enough for me and my husband to see what is priority here. We see a lot of lumping in of certain figures, but I see a lot of athletic things being thrown in, and I'm not against athletics, we love sports. But I want to see the difference of what is urgent, what is essential, what are we failing on right now, and how much would that cost compared to some of these improvements that we're looking at. So do we have those figures on exactly the roofs, the boiler systems? Those, to me, I would consider those the high priority items.
Yeah, we certainly have actual costs on itemized items in the project. But the board has made a decision that we needed to go out for a total capital project to do all, and when I say high priority items, I guess I would argue that everything in the project is a high priority item. And
But it's determined by the state. to be a
Yes.
hybrid. It's not our determination. They give us that survey and they dictate to us the level at which they want the repair.
So those, for example, going back to your example of Layton's athletic area, it's not specific to athletics. There's AD accessibility issues, there's life safety issues, there's degradation in the lockers and the equipment and things that we're required to maintain. So it's kind of the advantage of, you can maintain it on a dollar for dollar basis as a district as part of your operational budget, or you can use the opportunity for a capital project to hit those dollar items so that they minimize the impact on the local share.
Okay, I can appreciate that, that makes sense. Except for the fact that, okay, so I'm trying to understand here, with the operating budget, you had mentioned that we can get 86% state aid to help fix these roofs, or we can have to do it all ourselves. Wouldn't that aid still be available under a different program for just a reduced amount? I understand for if we're gonna have post-specific athletics and we're choosing to send them to Layton instead of wherever we're doing them right now, which is, I'm assuming, the high school.
most of our winter athletic events are hosted at Layton, and Layton was built originally for that purpose.
And so we're not up to ADA standards right now, you're saying, and for what we're existingly using it for?
Some ADA standard problems exist in those locker room and those areas behind the gym at Layton, because when Layton was built originally, the Oswego High School sat next to the Big M. That was the high school when at the time, and so when Layton was built in 1955, the idea was that the physical education and gymnasium spaces and adjoining locker rooms would be the hub of winter athletics for Oswego. So for example, we have locker rooms, girls and boys locker rooms in Layton School that serve as the home and visitor locker rooms for basketball, volleyball, football, but they have gang showers in them. Gang showers are no longer the industry standard and are unacceptable to ask adolescents to use. So we use them for storage. We're required under the New York State Public High School Athletic Association to have showers and changing facilities for officials who come to our events. We don't have that. So those are some of the things that we think are high priority. If you toured those facilities at Layton, you would be like, wow, it's not what we want for our kids. So that's what led us to believe that those are high priority items, and they surface to the top of the building condition survey. There's a lot of stuff in the building condition survey that's not in this capital project.
Yeah, the book is this thing,
Right.
small print, what the state recognized.
Okay, I'm trying to understand because we have a priority here. We have, the Oswego High School getting almost $25 5 million. We see Oswego Middle School getting 13 million, Layton getting almost 13 million, and then we see Riley getting 1 million, and the other elementary schools, you know, right around between 3 and 4 million. The roof makes sense why Kingsford and Fitzhugh would be, you know, maybe $1 million more than Minetto. Riley, I did see it says there's only going to be a portion of water stuff being replaced. Is that because the other half has already been done, or have we decided not to do half of it?
No, we'll remediate whatever areas of potable water, drinkable water need to be done building by building. I think one of the reasons that you see the number at Riley is lower, because Riley was built with terrazzo floors, tile corridor walls, and it just is in better shape than the other schools. And a lot of the work to be done at Riley is in the Bunner Street corridor, which is 2nd and 3rd grade, and it's largely classroom cosmetic. So they don't have any big ticket items there other than some air circulation work, some controls. But it's mostly cosmetic work. Where although Layton was built in the same time frame, one was built just before the other, it houses that wing of athletics for the entire district that for 70 years has been used every day. So we don't.
And that's being used by the high school students?
Yes, by the high school.
Just
students.
high school students?
Yep, because Layton is the home of our high school athletics for winter.
And if I could just tag on to that too, we're just coming off of a couple of years now, the 2012 capital project, which was heavy on the elementary schools and light on, I think we just did very minor work at the middle school to keep the pool operational, and then we did some minor work at the high school. So now we're, those things that were maybe medium priority to high priority on the last go round are now ultra high. We need to prioritize those, if that makes sense. So a lot of the systems, the infrastructure, the roofs were replaced. It's only 2 roofs we have left in the district are at the 2 buildings mentioned in this project. The new roofs we are putting on are 30-year systems. In the high school, all the buildings will have a 30-year system roof on it versus in previous projects, they've been typically 15 years. So now we're kind of getting 2 capital project cycles out of the way by having those extended systems on those systems.
What year was the last capital project where you did that?
We voted in 2012. I think we did final cost reports in 2015, 2016 on that. Does that sound right?
And prior to that was the 2008 capital project, and the prior to the high priority item in that was to provide single points of entry at 6 of the 7 schools. So that was the year that you saw all the new lobby systems, the card key access, cameras, and that was largely middle school and high school, where we actually added lobbies, and school safety and security was starting to come to the forefront at that point. And we got ahead of that by doing a lot of that work in the elementary schools.
And then the 15-16, there was no field work or athletic work included in that capital project?
Not to the extent that we're proposing this one. No, it was, maybe minor site work as part of the
Surfacing, did you do
Yes,
surfacing with the field
we did
protection?
some. I
In the
apologize for
2008
not.
capital project, we did some site work related to sidewalks, bus drives, and parking in several of the schools. And that was completed in summer of 2010.
I'm asking about that. That kind of gets on another topic, but the surfacing, what is the lifespan of the high school's fields and surfaces that
The new
were?
one?
No, well, the new one is supposed to be what, 7 or it's 10 years?
15, I think,
15?
on the carpet of
But
it.
how long have we had the existing
Wilbur Field was
without any work?
Well, it was
without
developed in
any
the 50s. The Wilbur Stadium was in the 50s, and in around 2009 or 10, there was a new surface, and new grass, new soil and grass to improve the Wilbur Field, and that was done by a volunteer.
And the track?
The track at the middle school, I'm not sure of the area of the tracks.
Do you remember when that was done? That was an ARPA project.
Well, yeah, I know that the middle school track is 14 years old, so we rolled, so 2004.
And we haven't done anything
And we're
to
supposed
it?
to we were supposed to resurface that ideally in 7 years ago, so 2011.
And it wasn't
And
done?
it was not resurfaced. So we're way past the time if we don't do a resurfacing, which is what we're proposing at the middle school site, then very shortly it'll have to be a total redo.
Right. So my concern with the high school is, I guess, the drainage and things that we're talking about. We, as everybody's aware, we're in a FEMA high-risk flood zone, exactly where we are. And so by just sticking in a field and, putting a little gravel, we're not going to preserve and live up to the lifespan, as you're aware, for our fields. So what is the process? What exactly are we putting in there to make sure that when we spend this money, these fields are lasting?
That's a very good question, and we're aware of that problem. It's not just a matter of some gravel and artificial turf. In
did
fact,
mention raising
yes,
some.
it's actually a pretty complex elevated surface. So this area would be, the elevation would be raised, and a pretty complex bladder system would be installed underneath that artificial turf multi-purpose facility that would gather any rain runoff, even natural rain runoff, into that bladder system, and then systematically release it into the storm sewer when it was ready. Because we understand that the city has a
It's
water runoff
overworked
in this
already.
corner,
Mhm.
and that all would, and our architects and engineers were aware of that as well. That particular surface will be elevated, and that rain collection system will be installed under it.
So as far as the design goes, we're required by our 100-year storm, so the worst case scenario, so we have to design around. And we only have to manage technically what's in the property boundary. But we know that we have other issues with other runoff in the area, the site conditions and the city issues and with the drainage. So we've designed that system to accommodate not only this at a worst case scenario, but a certain percentage of buffer to help any runoff from neighboring areas coming into
Which
district.
is why this is a flood zone.
Exactly, exactly.
It's
So-
an basin, basically. But, okay, so that approval, FEMA, I don't know this, I'm just throwing it out there. Do we have flood insurance as a school district for being in a high-risk area?
Because we've never had an actual building flood. We have some flooding that goes into the corner of this.
Right, but it's still,
Real
it's
mess
considered a
everyone's-
high risk, and I
Yeah.
know, at least residential, you're
Yeah.
required to have,
Yeah.
federal flood insurance. So I'm not sure for a school district, is that coverage that's available to the school district? And will this system protect us so that we're getting the full lifespan out of our new tracks and fields
I think that's.
that we're providing?
If you were to build a house in the flood zone, you wouldn't be building it to the 100-year standard, right? And that's the requirement that he has to follow, that the DEC has to approve, that goes into the engineering of it. So what they take into the worst possible scenario, and they have to build to that.
So to answer your question, as Mr. Bell was saying, FEMA, DEC, they require on public property, on public entities to design to those higher standards than typical residential development type construction would have to do.
So the school can waive the high-risk flood insurance?
But we're also, or a public entity,
Right,
so there's, I think the insurance councils will probably have to weigh in on, there's a difference between private and public. And I think if there was a FEMA issue where there was flooding and things, they usually look at the public systems getting up to par as far as, how they recover and how those rates are. So I don't think FEMA would put the burden of flood risk on a district with the capital investment that you have, with millions and millions of facilities. So I think there might be another entity or another track that councils would probably provide better information on architect.
Okay, I guess there's just one more issue. As far as looking at this, when we look at the amount of students, and this is just a general concern, and why I'm asking these questions, because, I pulled up the 2008 Democrat and Chronicle New York School Quality Index, and it shows the enrollment per school. And so when we were looking at that, Riley Elementary has the most enrolled, 464 enrolled. when you look at the capital project of what they're getting, and what you said, there has to be allowance, you know, between roofs being required and certain things. But our concern is, you know, Riley's basically getting $2,400 per student out of that capital project money. The Layton has the lowest attended, 314 enrolled. They're getting $40,445 per student. Now, you're telling me that a large percentage of that is beneficial to the high school because of the athletic. The high school has 1,000, almost 1,200 students enrolled. Looking at the capital project without taking that money into consideration, they're already getting $20,000, almost $700 per student. So now if we're benefiting them additionally by adding in those additional funds, it's about $9,200 more per student. So in this capital project, if we're looking at all of the students that are being benefited by this capital project, we are giving a disproportionate amount of almost $30,000 to high school students. So our projects, our athletic programs, everything that we're giving, and I'm not saying some of it's not essential, but as a parent of an elementary child, and I see things that aren't even being addressed, and as Mr. Bell mentioned, there were things on that high priority that aren't being addressed. And one of them I can clearly see, I just spoke with Dr. Doty today, was about our drop-off procedures. We don't have an appropriate and safe way to be able to drop off our students in the morning. Last year, there was a student hit by a car because cars are parking double or triple. To me, that's a huge safety concern. With Riley only getting $1 million, I, as a parent, care more about seeing a complete restructure the front of that school if we have to make our kids, when we drop them off at school, safe to be able to go to school. I find that more high priority than, you know, partial, if it's not ADA 100%, a prettier locker. You know, so I'm trying to discern, and I don't feel like there's enough disclosure, enough transparency to really see, you know, out of that academic wing project, how much of that is really essential that we can do and move that, shift that burden over to some other students that may be able to benefit from that and that we could greatly need. So I'm not saying that we don't need improvements. I think that's clear. Obviously, we need to bring things up to code. Certain showers, obviously. But at the same time, I feel like, you know, what we're looking at, and I don't feel there's enough disclosure, transparency as to really what that entails. We're lumping it in. This is high priority. But some of those things I would like to see, are they really high priority, or could they have saved $500,000 to help do something to one of our lower schools so that we're helping the students in proportion, not giving such a heavy burden and help to just one set of high school students.
I hear what you're saying about the concern for drop-off. We have a similar problem in Kingsford. We have a similar problem in a lot of our schools because parents and kids are different today. We have far more parents that are dropping their students off at school instead of putting them on a bus. I mean, I taught at Kingsford Park for 10 years, and my children went there as well. And I monitor the parking drop-off situation in Kingsford every day. We didn't have that then because kids rode the bus or walked. Now we have so many more parents that are dropping kids off. But relative to your question or concern about allocation, we don't look at a capital project like this based on a per pupil allocation. We try to work off the building condition survey so that all 7 of our schools are great.
So
And Riley didn't need as much work as some of the other schools, so that's why that ticket number is lower. It's not because we don't value the students or staff at Riley as much as the other schools. It's just how it shook out in the survey.
And also previously, like you said too, that in the previous capital projects, that the elementary schools were targeted more than the high school and middle school. So it's where exactly your argument, what I understand, I agree too, I hear what you're saying, but it was the flip-flop with the last ones. So it was heavy-ended on the elementary schools versus secondary.
But there were still priorities that I'm wondering if they were even considered. you know, an engineer going in isn't going to be aware that this is a high security risk to children. They're going to look at the structure of the building. And yet, to me, you know, a student being hit by a car is unacceptable for this district. And if that happens, we should be doing something that should be in that high priority that may not have necessarily 100% shown. So that's why I guess, you know, I understand you're saying, you know, we have to allocate it according to the needs, but how are those needs prioritized? Was it just a, you know, with this survey, to some extent, there needs to be more input from the community, because there are certain things that should be high priority. And when we're giving, you know, lockers, paint jobs versus helping our students be able to walk to the classroom safely, I find that just, that's not acceptable. So with this transparency, I guess what I'm asking for, can we have it broken down better? Can we see where that is and what those priorities, things that were left off, is, you know, is it even on the list? On the survey, was it on the survey that we should have better, a whole restructure of the front of the school so that we can drop off our children safely? Is it there?
I think that relative to your comments about 7-12 versus heavy, I think that we all look at our 7-12 program as a K-12 program, because every child in our district at some point is going to attend through the middle school, through the high school. Even if your kids aren't there now, they will be soon, sooner than you think. And but I hear what you're saying, but there always are other high priority items that are waiting for their turn on in the building condition survey. But you raised a lot of good points, and we really appreciate your feedback.
And I want to make one more point, I'm sorry. Sorry. But there's been discussion, not by the board, but there's been discussion if this capital project gets shot down, that maybe we should just shut down Minetto. Busing more, and I'm sure you've heard this, there's a huge proponent of this. You know, shut it down, give us, you know, save the district money. And as a parent with a child with special needs, I find that completely unacceptable. Minetto has 24% of its students are disabled, almost a quarter of its students. That is our school for helping our students with special needs. And they have systems in place that are terrific. They have teams in place that have worked together for years. You break that up and you spread it out, they're not going to get the same effect, and we are going to highly disadvantage those students, as well as the fact that the way the school is structured, and they've set it up, they have quiet areas, they have excellent resources that we can't replace. So whoever's hearing this needs to take that into, you know, consideration.
We're not closing Minetto.
It's out there, I want to address it.
I hadn't heard it, but I'm glad you mentioned it, so I can.
Yeah, okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for your time.
Good questions.
Two passes. Hi, Bill Foley. Again, just a couple of things I'd just like to ask the board to be aware of as they go through this capital project. I went through 3 of these and was involved with what you're doing community relations group with 08 and 12. And there were some surprises along the way that maybe you should just be aware of, or just keep your eyes open for along the way. First of all, $63 million is the total. Now, we had a capital project once that the day after the vote passed, administration panicked. Because all of a sudden they realized that 15% was going to the architects. And that money was all of a sudden gone from the project. And all of a sudden there had to be changes made in what they wanted to do. So just be aware of that the money to the architects is a substantial amount of money, which will go down the way. Craig knows he's going to get something. I mean, they don't do this for free, and they have to get it. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's just that was a sticker shock for the administration in those days. No fault of anybody's except probably the administration's for not being aware that was going to happen. Secondly, one of the previous capital projects, the administrators told me, the voters vote the money for us to spend it as we want to spend it. The terrazzo in the library and in the lobby of the high school are beautiful. They came from capital project money, even though eventually it was arrangements were made to make it different, done differently. But initially, that money came from capital project money. The tennis courts at Riley were not in the capital project. They just suddenly appeared because a member of the administration wanted them in there. So I'm just asking the board, stay on top of this and make sure what you want done gets done for the kids. That's what's important and that's what's critical. And that's all I'm asking for. I'm here as a reporter for the Daily News tonight. And I usually wouldn't do this as a reporter, but I really felt that I needed to bring these points up because they've been bothering me since '08 when I sat through it. And as a clerk, I couldn't say anything. I can now. So good luck with it and take care of the kids, please.
Thank you.
Disclaimer, we weren't the administration and that
I don't think we were the architect
I don't know where the
either,
president came from.
I don't think I was that
I like
architect,
it.
Bill.
You weren't.
All right, I'll take my turn. I'm not addressing the board, I'm actually going to address the public. Yeah.
Can we have
the-
your name?
Oh, sorry, my name is Pamela Dowd. I reside at 94 Lake Street, right here in Oswego, New York.
Dan, before you start, can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to think I'm being rude. I'm introducing all the concerts for the next couple of weeks
Okay.
to kind of talk about the capital project.
Okay.
I
Here
have,
you go.
I have one at 7.
Go.
I'm gonna slip out and
Go.
then come back.
Go. You'll hear it on tape. Go. You're good. No worries. Thank you. Yeah, again, this is to the public. I hear a lot of naysayers out there. They're talking about the stadium, the grounds work, the fields work. The grounds work, the fields work is 11.33% of this whole big number. We talked about it's $1.15 a year for 20 years on a $100,000 home. I'm going to stay with that $100,000 number. 11.3% of $1.15, it's 13 cents a year. We have a lot of naysayers going on saying, vote no, we don't need a stadium. It's not a stadium, it's grounds work. It's upgrades to our facilities. Every athlete out there, the one there today, the one there in 20 years deserves this. It's 13 cents a year that people are gonna take and vote no and have all this work in our buildings not be done at this great rate, because you can't get a better price. The time is now, the price is right. For 13 cents, if you vote no, shame on you. What's in my pockets? I got 26 cents. I'll pay somebody's 2 years worth of the grounds work. The public needs to understand, this is not about a stadium. That's just a small piece of the project. Again, on a $100,000 home, you're talking 13 cents. You can't even buy a stick of gum. Do not vote no on this project. The time is now, the price is right. Let's do this for the future of all of our children and the community here in Oswego. Go Bucks, we're proud.
Thanks, Dan.
And also just to add to that misinformation, there's also a rumor out there that it's the stadium seats 10,000 and it's 2,000, right? So there's still, even with all of this going on, there's still misinformation, unfortunately, because
And they're gonna be there. Basically, we need to educate our friends and families and get them to the polls.
Any other questions?
How many seats are in the stadium?
Well, the field.
2,000.
Yeah, it's 2,000.
Anybody else? All right, well, thank you all very much for coming. Thank you for your great questions too, appreciate it.